If I asked you to name a game developed by Artec Studio, could you? Originally founded in 1982, they would go on to develop and port over 100 games before going defunct in 2011. They were most well known for their games based on game shows, board games, and other licensed properties. However, the one game they are most well known for in retro circles is their 32X exclusive Motocross Championship. Today we're going to look at what all the commotion's about. This is Retro Impressions and Reviews, a show dedicated to answering if video games from the past are still worth your time today. Motocross Championship was a very early release for the 32X, hitting markets just months after its debut. It's an extremely interesting case as it received moderate to high scores from the press upon its release, yet today is regarded by a large segment of people as one of the worst, if not the worst game released on the system. This is a rather basic racing game that's rather shallow when it comes to its feature set. The main offering is a season mode with a total of 3 unique classes, 125, 250, and the Superbike class. You start off in the 125 class and race over 12 total tracks. Each race has 12 total riders including yourself. In order to advance from track to track, you'll need to place in the top 3. If you fail to do this, you'll repeat the same track over again until you complete it. There are 3 total backgrounds used, including a stadium, mountains, and a plateau. The track variety is fairly solid for this kind of game, and once you've finished all 12 tracks, you will be shown how you rank versus the computer-controlled competitors. Thankfully, there is a password save system allowing you to resume your progress should you need to take a break. A practice mode is also included that lets you race any of the 3 bikes on any of the 12 tracks. The only other option is a 2-player one. This works on both practice and season modes. The only downfall is a very large screen is required, as very little of the screen is used for both players. Let's talk about the controls for a bit, as they are not intuitive at all. I skipped over the manual, opting to just get right into the game. I mean, really, how hard could it be? Well, let me tell you, if you don't know what you're doing, bad times will ensue. The reason boils down to a speed and balance mechanic the game implements, in addition to the standard gas and brake. The control layout is as follows: A is brake, B gas, C attack. Left and right turn the bike, up increases the speed, pushes the angle of the bike forward, and makes it less stable. Pressing down slows the bike, pulls the weight of the rider onto the rear wheel, tilting the bike backward, and gives more stability. Adjusting the angle of the bike is critical when jumping and landing the bike to maintain your speed, and in certain cases gain a speed increase. Once you've got this down, the bike is a ton of fun to control. Graphically, it's a mixed bag that ranges from average to downright dull and unpolished. The backgrounds are washed out and under-detailed, with every side object looking like a cardboard cutout. It's kind of charming if you imagine yourself speeding through a movie set lined with cheap-looking props, and it really brings to mind the Twilight Zone episode, Stopover in a Quiet Town.
Hey, boy, am I glad to see you. Oh, we've been wandering around here all morning. You're the first person...
The manual is well done, going into detail about every aspect of the track, gameplay, strategies, and a feature set this game apparently has but hasn't been very forthcoming on, such as the uniquely programmed computer-controlled competitors. It's a must-read if you truly want to get the most out of this title. One other interesting point about the manual is it contains an advertisement for an unreleased 32X game, College Basketball's National Championship. Beyond this, the game really shines where it matters, this being the draw distance of the track, the use of scaling, and the sense of thrill and speed the game gives the player. This is especially true if it's just you and the track. I want to reiterate once more before moving on that this is purely dependent on properly controlling your bike and being out in front away from the competition. If you can't get this down, then you will experience a slow bike and a sluggish game. Something I want to cover quickly is the audio. The music has some variety, but it's all really rough to listen to. The audio choices are of the lowest quality imaginable, ensuring that even if you're into the style presented here, you're not going to enjoy how it's done. Still, it's not game-breaking, it's just not good. Thankfully, one of the options this game gives us is the option to turn off the music, something I fully recommend you take advantage of. So let's look at some other common complaints. There are a ton of people who see this as inspired by or a straight up ripoff of Road Rash. I really failed to see any similarity at all beyond the use of motorbikes and the ability to attack the rider next to you. Motocross Championship was never pushed as anything other than a motocross racing sim. I mean, it's a little ridiculous that the ability to engage in unsportsmanlike conduct is in this game, but it's even more ludicrous to compare it to the great Road Rash series. Really, without an in-depth review of the Road Rash series, it's impossible to show just how different these games are, but trust me, this is a silly comparison. One of the most common complaints is also something this game is best known for, the bunched start. It's really annoying and happens every single time. I can't for the life of me understand how such a glaring oversight was left in. The good news is if you wait a couple seconds to hit the gas, you will avoid the mess every single time. Still, this is something that really adds to the unfinished package this game presents the player, contributing greatly to the bad taste most experience after playing this title. This, however, is hardly an issue. In my opinion, the big problem is how your bike seems to be like a magnet. Try as you might to stay away from other riders, they will find you and make contact. Every time you make contact with another rider, you're either going to crash, come to a complete stop, or bounce off them. It's physics that make no sense in a game that really hit a home run in giving the player a great controlling bike. Having that bike hardly matters though when everything else around you is falling apart. The reality is it's very hard to enjoy this game unless you're ahead of the competition, and even with that, there is a heavy rubber band system in place making it impossible to ever break fully away. It's really unfortunate that you need to be out in front for the game to be enjoyable because it's pure chaos and hell everywhere outside of first place. I have a couple other personal issues with the game I haven't really seen mentioned, starting with the lack of a mode that lets you race these tracks solo. I also take issue with the lack of lap times. When it comes to racing games, there is nothing like trying to beat your personal best as you make your way around the track multiple times, but this game doesn't keep track of this, something that should be standard in every racing game that goes to market. In 1997, a remaster of sorts was released under the title Moto Extreme. This game was developed mostly by the same core team as the 32X release and was published by ValueSoft as a budget title for the PC on a single compact disc. Again, you have all the same modes, same bikes, and same requirements to qualify for an upgrade. The only new option is a 12-player mode accessible via a local network. The number of tracks the game contains has been reduced from 12 to 8. Each new track is now represented by a different geographical location, and the backgrounds have been redone to reflect this. The tracks, however, are not original and are all carried over from the 32X release. Track 1 is now referred to as Canada, Track 3 is Japan, Track 4 is France, and so on. There is also a hidden track called Lunar. As you might imagine, it's a low-gravity track based on the moon. It's a rather cool idea, but this is the worst experience of the whole game, as this is just Track 10 from the 32X version, and not one set up specifically with low-gravity jumps in mind. This results in jumps that become overextended, causing you to be in the air still well after a turn has come and gone. This also leaves the 32X with 3 exclusive tracks. Along with the new theme backgrounds, a full graphical overhaul has been implemented, and quite frankly, it's not for the best. Everything looks like it's crafted from cheap plastic and cardboard cutouts, making the 32X release seem quite stellar by comparison. No doubt about it, this is a full regression in just about every way possible. The scaling is now absent, and with that, the sense of thrill and speed is no longer present. This is a shallow, boring, slow-paced, shameful version of a game that wasn't that great to begin with. The music has all been redone and fails to meet the expectations of quality any CD-based game should have. The only thing this game seems to correct is the bunch start. These are now a thing of the past. In exchange, they have somehow magnified my biggest complaint from the 32X release. The controls seem off. and there seems to be an increased chance of wiping out when making any contact with another rider. These are trade-offs I wouldn't have made on the 32X version, having had the ability to experience it here. The final thing this game changes is the ability to run practice mode with as little as 3 and as many as 23 computer-controlled racers. My final score, 4 out of 10. In the end, this is the best motocross game on the 32X, and the better version by a country mile. It's a game that would have been fondly remembered as a fun title if only some of the poor programming decisions would have been rectified before it saw release. It does a great job of giving its players some really fun moments in tandem with computer-controlled frustrating times that ultimately kill the experience as a whole. There's narrow appeal here, but if this kind of game speaks to you, I would recommend you pick this up and give it a go. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a positive or negative comment letting me know your thoughts. Click subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'm Jenovi, and this has been Retro Impressions and Reviews.